Cancel culture. It's the big scary monster in our collective cultural room, but what if it's just like a tiny rat casting a big shadow? Cancel culture has definitely become this big problem in our society today, and for those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically where you say something that a mob disagrees with in any sort of way, and they ruin your entire life. And the thing about cancel culture is that it doesn't just stop with people yelling at you on the internet. They will come after you, they'll come after your family, they'll come after your jobs, they'll come after your hobbies. Any group that you might belong to, they go after them. It is unforgiving, it is unthinking, it recognizes no allies, and it will not stop until it gets what it wants. And what it wants is generally your destruction. So many politicians out there, not just politicians, CEOs, activists, media personalities, they are all terrified of cancel culture, which is why you see them caving to the mob all the time. Major corporations will go out of their way to virtue signal just so that they can avoid the mob coming after them at any point in time. They just want to make themselves look good so that they can take themselves off the target list, which, by the way, is not going to save you. Now, according to a Politico poll, almost half of America, 49%, said it has a negative effect on our culture. Meanwhile, only 27% of voters think that it's a good thing that we have cancel culture. And as you might have guessed, most of the people who think it's good are on the left. What do you know? But if the majority of Americans believe that cancel culture is a bad thing, how do we get rid of this plague on our society? And as far as I can tell so far, no one has really come up with a good idea on how to combat it, and I think that's because we have a very huge misunderstanding as to what cancel culture actually is. Many people would be forgiven for thinking that this just boils down to a big online mob that is forcing people to do things with pressure, but that's not necessarily the case. Since the dawn of the internet, it has been nothing but people disagreeing with each other behind a keyboard. The internet is like 75% of people disagreeing with each other on social media, 10% puppies, and the rest of it is just porn. Suffice to say, you will never get rid of all the people trying to fight with each other online. You will never get rid of the mobs. What cancel culture really boils down to at its heart is just a boycott war.
Brandon, what do you mean by that?
You ever heard of the phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me?
It's an older code, sir, but it checks out.
You probably haven't heard it in a long time, given the fact that our society has devolved into... But a whole bunch of people getting together online to yell at you about the fact that you said something along the lines of, there are only two genders, really doesn't do anything to hurt you. The reason cancel culture is so effective, what makes it so dangerous, is the fact that they don't just go after you. They go after your life. The strategy goes like this. You say something that a mob disagrees with, the mob comes after you, and a few of those members will begin digging into your personal life, which is scary enough in and of itself. These mob sleuths will find out where you live, where you work, and they will proceed to put pressure anywhere they can in order to make your life miserable. They will try to get your work to fire you by saying,
"Oh, so this is the kind of people you like to work for you? Are you racist as well?"
Next thing you know, your business is freaking out because they're about to get hit with a whole wave of bad PR. The only thing they can think to do in order to appease the mob is fire you. And once that happens, then and only then is cancel culture the victor here. The mob got together in a large number and pinged your work over and over and over and over again, making it seem like everybody hates them for hiring you. They threaten a perceived massive boycott, and thus, the only thing they can think to do in order to save their own business is to terminate your livelihood. You see where I'm going here? Without businesses capitulating to the mob, there's not really any cancel culture. The real task isn't stopping the mob. There's always going to be a mob. The real task is showing businesses that capitulating to the mob has consequences.
Brandon, aren't you talking about a boycott? Isn't that kind of cancel culture all on its own?
I mean, yeah, kind of. But while boycotts are all well and good, they hardly ever have a real effect. So I'm not necessarily suggesting we boycott, though, I mean, do it if you can. What I'm actually suggesting is that when it comes to companies that resist the mob, we have a boycott. Boycotts are obviously the opposite of boycotts. Whenever a company goes out and does something good, like stand up to the mob, many people go out and they buy their product purely out of spite for the mob and to support the company. It's voting with our wallets in the purest form. And where the mob and their cancel culture only want to make misery and destroy, a boycott uplifts and prospers. And it's actually far more effective than boycotts ever have been. Think about all the times that a boycott has really made the news and uplifted people. You had Chick-fil-A back in the day today. You have recently Goya and now Red Bull. These companies refused to bend the knee when the mob said kneel, and because of that, America rewarded them. The real way to cancel culture is to teach companies that they don't have to cave to the mob. In fact, if they don't cave to the mob, it will result in riches unimagined. It may take some time, but inevitably companies will learn that in order to actually survive in this environment, in this market, they don't need to cave to the Marxist left. And this actually works to our advantage because, we have the jobs and we make the money and we spend it, not them. It's deceptively simple and it is a long game, but it will work if we continue to actually do this. So if we want to eliminate cancel culture from our society, all we have to do is practice capitalism. That's how we're going to defeat Marxism, with capitalism. Thank you for listening to my PSA. Later.